Welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Focus TV. It's season 7, episode 10. We got Octavia Wyatt here, Cardell Dudley Jr., Raymond Lyons, Wilson Tarpe Jr. Now we're gonna get straight to it. Octavia, wild card weekend is done. Social media has been a buzz it's been hilarious depending on where you are. It's been a hilarious period. That said, it's funny to everyone until your respective teams loses. However, social media has been beside itself. I'm anxious to see how this continues as we go forward through these NFL playoffs. That said, the floor is yours. We start wherever you want to start.
Well, I didn't think it was funny. I haven't been on social media at all, so I didn't think it was funny. But I'll tell you why I didn't think it was funny. Yes, they call it now Super Wild Card Weekend, and maybe it was wild. Just like we like it, honestly, and unless, like you said, Wilson, it's your team that's on the other side of the wildness. Which I didn't even put the right thing up here. Which my team was on the other side of the wildness. um, Philadelphia Eagles were the 5 seed, and they played against the 4 seed Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 32-9. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Jalen Hurts was 25 of 35, 250 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 carry for 5 yards, and was sacked 3 times. DeAndre Swift had 10 carries for 34 yards. Devontae Smith had 8 receptions for 148 yards. And Dallas Goedert had 4 receptions for 21 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, to me, it was so. A lot of people just magically just thought, like, oh no, y'all are going to get it together. You're going to win. I knew we were losing this game like weeks ago. Like, it just does not look right. I don't know what happened. It's just a mess. The defense was a mess. The offense was a mess. Of course, they missed. AJ Brown did not play. And safety Reed Blankenship also did not play. So they had to do more shuffling in the secondary. And then to add insult to injury, AJ being the big body wide receiver, we have an older version of that in Julio Jones, who also left the game with a concussion. Devontae Smith did everything he could do, but him being the main guy, it's definitely hard. But I mean, the defense was just horrible. I mean, people were running around wide open. Like, it was just bad. Philadelphia's offense through the first 3 quarters, they had 11 first downs, 0 for 7 on third down, 38 rushing yards on 12 carries, and just 218 total net yards. This was against the defense that the Eagles gained for 201 rushing yards and nearly 500 total yards in week 3. Again, like I said, last week, 2 totally different teams on both sides. They basically had no answer. Philadelphia went 0 for 9 on third downs in this game. 0 for 9 on third down, you're not winning the game. Like, if you can't convert on third down, there's no way you're winning the game. Tampa Bay, talking about how bad the Philadelphia's defense was. Tampa Bay scored in its first 4 possessions, 3 field goals and a touchdown. The Bucs had a good balance with 15 running plays for 68 yards. Baker Mayfield completed 10 of 20 of his passes for 155 yards and a touchdown. It was just bad. I mean, the Eagles were able to get some stops, but by that time, the damage had already been done. It was just bad all the way around. Like, there was no. I mean, there was a spark at one point. The defense was able to get a couple of stops. They were able to get a sack or 2 on Baker Mayfield, who was sacked 4 times. So there were some spots, but it was nothing that was long enough to sustain a win. Baker Mayfield threw for 337 yards and 3 touchdowns and averaged a whopping 9.4 yards per pass attempt, much of it in the middle of the field, which the last 7 games we've had, that's where it's been. The one thing that drove me insane is that the Eagles cannot tackle to save their lives. It was so horrible. Like, it's like all of a sudden everybody on defense forgot how to tackle. And it was just like, there's no way you can win a game like that. Now that the game is over, there have been rumblings and things. The first thing, of course, is that Jason Kelce has already come out and said that he's told his teammates as well as the organization that he will be retiring, which, if you were a Philadelphia Eagles fan, you knew that was coming. He only came back this year because of the success they had last year, thinking that they would be able to run it back. So I just hate that he had to go out on such a sour note the way that the season ended for them, but it does not sour his career. He was also named an All Pro this week, first team. I believe he's the only first team All Pro on the Eagles team. They have a couple of second team All Pro players, but hell of a career. He's done everything for that, that city, from football to philanthropy to everything. But if anybody watched his documentary, you could see that it was definitely about that time for him to hang it up. His body just physically can't take it. Even though a lot of times in the games, I feel like you can't really tell because he's playing so well. But just to see the aftermath of it was definitely kind of disheartening. So he has 3 young children. I'm happy that he'll be able to spend some time with them and hopefully find his life after football. And then the other big news or big rumblings are talking about is the potential or the thought or the theory that it could possibly, maybe not happen. The firing of Nick Sirianni. I personally think it's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. Nick Sirianni wasn't out there missing tackles. Definitely wasn't out there in the field missing tackles. He definitely wasn't out there when Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown decided to change the play at the last second, for whatever reason. Now, granted, yes, he does have some culpability in this, as well as the coordinators. But my good friend Wilson talked me off a ledge about 2 months ago that this is all kind of expected. It's a lot of turnover from last year. Now I say expected, but I didn't expect it to go this left. But there was a lot of turnover from last year. 2 brand new defensive coordinators, one of them who's never called plays before. Matt Patricia replacing a defensive coordinator in the middle of the season, and it kind of got worse. And a bevy of injuries. It just sucked that the season ended that way. I will say that I am happy that it's over. I don't got to hear it for the rest of the year. Philadelphia Eagles are no longer in the playoffs. We are officially off season mode. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. Let's go. And just look forward to next year. So I am very happy that that is over. On to the other NFC East team that played this week in Super Wild Card Weekend. Excuse me. The Dallas Cowboys played against the Green Bay Packers. And to be honest, this was probably the biggest shock for me personally. And I'm not even trying to be funny or anything. I was shocked at this game, to be completely honest. The Dallas Cowboys lost to the Green Bay Packers 48-32. Dak Prescott was 41 of 60, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and was sacked 2 times. Tony Pollard had 15 carries for 56 yards, 1 touchdown, and 7 receptions for 29 yards. CeeDee Lamb had 9 receptions, 110 yards, 1 carry for 5 yards. And Jake Ferguson had 10 receptions for 93 yards and all 3 touchdowns that Dak threw. I'll be honest, I was floored, to be completely honest. And I say that because I really try not to be biased or try not to, look at them like, oh, it's the same old Cowboys stuff. Like, I really try to look at it as the entire season that they've had has been an amazing one. I mean, for goodness sake, I think they're like 16-0 at home in the last 2 years. They haven't lost a home game in who knows how long. And to be the 2 seed going into this weekend, guaranteed a home game, possibly a second one, to come into playing against the youngest NFL team by average in the league. Players that have never been anywhere near this level in the playoffs, even with it being a wild card. Jordan Love, who sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. It honestly was completely surprised. I thought that they would come out with a lot more energy than they did. And as I just talked about, like Nick Sirianni couldn't be out there making tackles, but it just seemed like Mike McCarthy didn't have his team ready to go at all. There were just too many penalties. I mean, I don't know what happened to Dan Quinn in this game. It was just crazy. The 48 points was the most Dallas has ever given up in a playoff game. The Packers are the first 7 seed to win a playoff game ever, which is wild. And the score was 48-32, but it's a lot closer than it really was. It was 40-16 at one point. A lot of those yardage and touchdown passes that Dak Prescott got in this game came in garbage time, where the game was already out of hand. Uh, Dak Prescott was pretty bad in the first half, missing a lot of his target, making questionable decisions. But again, like I said, by the time he got into any type of rhythm, he threw for 403 yards. It was too late. The game was too far gone at that point. Dan Quinn was outmatched all game long. The defense couldn't stop their run in the second half. But they looked even worse in the passing throughout the contest. The secondary players were lost on more than one occasion. There were numerous times when wide open receivers for the Packers were able to, I don't know, just get invisible real fast and then just pop back up again and get the ball. I mean, Musgrave, the 38-yard touchdown pass to him was ridiculous. Romeo Dobbs was everywhere. Dontavian Wicks had a great catch in the end zone. And I mean, it shows that Jordan Love was definitely an understudy to Aaron Rodgers. And he paid a lot of attention. And it goes back to say that, we talk about the Bryce Youngs of the world and the CJ Strouds that are able to just, start immediately when they come into the league. But some of these other quarterbacks aren't, privileged enough to do that just because they come into a good situation where they have to sit back and wait to see when they be able to play. But sometimes you get situations like this where him sitting back and learning from Aaron Rodgers definitely showed up in this game. And the Green Bay Packers, they just did their thing. On the defensive side for the Cowboys, again, their run defense was non-existent as well. For the fourth time in 4 matchups with the Cowboys, Aaron Jones went over 100 yards. He scored at least 3 touchdowns for the second time. He ran for 118 yards while averaging 5.6 yards a carry. After kind of being a little bit bottled up in the first half, I don't know if you want to attribute that to the defensive side or just he just wasn't able to get into any running lanes. And it was obvious early on that, Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb weren't on the same page for whatever reason. I don't know where the disconnect came in. They were able to kind of get it together a little bit in the second half. But again, by that time, it was 40-16. Dak, who has not thrown a lot of interceptions this year, as we talked about ad nauseum last year about how many interceptions he threw. He threw 2 costly interceptions during this game, a pick 6 to, I believe it was Darnell Savage and Jair Alexander, who was even questionable coming into the game with an ankle injury. He had a nasty pick. I don't even know if you want to say that was too much on Dak or what, but he had a nasty pick, and had he not been touched down, that would have been a pick 6 as well. Now the Dallas Cowboys in their offseason, they have the same questions that the Philadelphia Eagles have as well. But they have a lot of people to pay. They got a lot of people to pay. I think that's going to be the hardest portion for their offseason. We know that Dak is coming up on his contract negotiations, and the way that the quarterback contracts are looking, he would be in the realm for $60 million. I'm very interested to see how much he gets and what they work out. Because as we all know, he might not be whatever you want to call it. Everybody has their opinions of Dak and where he ranks in quarterback tiers. But as we all know, it's really hard to get a good quarterback in this league. And I think he's a decent one. So it will be interesting to see what they decide to do if they decide to move on. One thing, and granted, we haven't talked about him in a long time, to the fact that I forgot he was there. My dad did happen to mention, if you guys don't know, my dad is a avid Cowboys fan. There's still Trey Lance lingering in the background. Never know. That saves them a lot of money, but and I'm sure a lot of teams would kill to have a Dak Prescott at that. But they got a Dak Prescott to pay. They got a Michael Parsons to pay. They have a lot of people that they have to play, and then of course it comes down to the coaching staff. If it were me, I probably would let McCarthy go, just because there are so many high-profile, great coaches that are out there. And I know it's kind of weird because McCarthy has had 3 straight 12-5 seasons. But as we all know, we've talked about pretty much all year long, it's not about the regular season. For some reason, they just can't get over that playoff hump. And to me, this was their best opportunity in a very, very long time. To have a number 2 seed, to have pretty much home field advantage, for the remaining of the season until they will play against the San Francisco 49ers, because the San Francisco 49ers are going to the Super Bowl, in case you guys didn't know. Yeah, so Jerry in his whole Jerry fashion, I don't feel bad for him because he made that asinine quote about us losing a couple of weeks ago. And now he's floored. That's where I got the word from. He was floored. So I was floored as well. He has some decisions to make. We know he usually holds on to coaches for a pretty long time. Example, Jason Garrett, who is now a commentator for NBC. So I'm interested to see how that works out. Dan Quinn is up for a lot of head coaching positions. Does that change after the performance that he had in this last game? Who knows? But they have a lot going on. So we have officially come to the end of the NFC East season. All 4 teams are gone. No more. They are all 1, 2, 3 Cancun, getting ready for next year. Just to quickly touch on the other games. Cleveland Browns, who have had a very good season despite playing, I think they said 5 different quarterbacks this year. They played against the Houston Texans, and my God, Houston Texans, 45, Cleveland Browns 14. CJ Stroud became the youngest quarterback to win a playoff game after throwing for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Texans returned 2 interceptions by Joe Flacco for scores for the 45-14 rout of Cleveland in their wild card matchup. I mean, CJ Stroud threw for 236 yards and 3 touchdowns before halftime as the Texans built a 24-14 lead. After that, the defense took over. Steven Nelson, Christian Harris returning interceptions for the touchdowns on consecutive drives in the third quarter to extend the lead to 38-14. CJ Stroud was taken out early in this game for Davis Mills. That tells you a lot in a playoff game when you're starting quarterback. Just rest for the rest of the day. We'll see you next week. Joe Flacco finished with 307 yards, had a touchdown pass in the first half. But his mistakes in the third quarter with the interceptions basically just became too much for them to overcome. CJ Stroud is looking amazing. I know we're going to be close coming up on awards for this season. And I mean, I think it's a no-brainer that he's definitely Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I think the one that I really want to find out is that a lot of people were looking at Kevin Stefanski as Coach of the Year. I've been screaming D'Amico Ryans for Coach of the Year for all year. I mean, I get what Stefanski's done with having the 5 different quarterbacks, but nobody in the world thought the Houston Texans would be where they are in the playoffs. CJ Stroud playing the way he's playing. I mean, Will Anderson Jr. having a rookie campaign as well. And think about CJ Stroud. I think he's threw for like 27 touchdowns and like 3 interceptions or something like that. It's ridiculous. So he has my vote. Miami played against Kansas City. It was cold out there. Miami didn't look like they was ready for the cold. Kansas City beat the Miami Dolphins 26-7. Patrick Mahomes threw for 262 yards. He found Rashee Rice 8 times for 130 yards and a touchdown. He made several daring runs for a key first down. Isaiah Pacheco, ran all over the frozen turf for 89 yards, as well as another rushing touchdown. And the Chiefs shut down the Miami offense for the 26-7 victory. Although Miami was definitely injury-ridden during this game, Bradley Chubb was out. I believe Jalen Phillips was out as well. I think Xavier Howard didn't play. I think Jalen Ramsey played. But they were just riddled, and I believe they lost somebody else during the game. It kind of sucked, but at the same time, you got to play with who you got, and every team is going through injury situations at this time. They look nothing like the offense that we saw earlier in the league. Tua was pressured by the NFL second-ranked defense. Wide receiver Tyreek Hill had a 53-yard 53-yard TD catch, but was otherwise shut down. The Dolphins finished with 264 yards in all. The Dolphins were 1 for 12 on third down. Again, Eagles were 0 for 9. They were 1 for 12. Sounds like the same percentage to me, except for 0%, maybe like 0.2. Yeah, you're not going to win a game like that. So they will be home, and they will be setting up a very good game for us next week as well. Probably the closest contested game over the weekend, the Los Angeles Rams played against the Detroit Lions. The Rams lost to the Lions 23-24. The Lions, who ended their season 13-5, ended a 9-game postseason losing streak, the longest in NFL history, that dated to a victory over Dallas on January 5th, 1992. They lost a home playoff game 2 years later and hadn't hosted one since. I mean, the fans were in the stands crying, guys. Like they were out there playing. They hadn't gone through this whole drought with their team as well. Um, it was definitely a sight to see for them, even though it was a very closely tested game. Against the franchise he once led to the Super Bowl, Jared Goff was 22 of 27 for 277 yards and threw a 2-yard touchdown pass to rookie tight end Sam Laporta that put Detroit ahead 21-10 midway through the second quarter. Their rookies are standout Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, who's an all-pro in his rookie year. I mean, who saw that coming? But you could see it as in every game he played. Also coming off of an injury in a previous week, and was still able to get out there and play. Definitely a great outing for Jared Goff to come back and beat the team that basically discarded him, and to be able to win in that fashion and in that arena for them. On the other side, I mean, Puka Nacua, what can you say? Another rookie sensation. If anybody's going to give CJ Stroud any competition for offensive rookie of the year, it would be him. He is also an all-pro as a rookie. He had 9 receptions for 181 yards and a touchdown for the Rams. It just wasn't enough. Although, I mean, he did get held a little bit on that last play. So who knows? I mean, they let that player get away with it, although we didn't get away with it in Super Bowl last year. So there's that. Last but not least, the Pittsburgh Steelers played against the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-17. Buffalo led 21-0 before Pittsburgh scored on 3 straight positions to get within 24-17. But Josh Allen was a man on fire. Allen finished 21 of 30, 203 yards, and ran for 74 yards on 8 carries. He became the first quarterback in NFL playoff history to throw 3 or more touchdown passes while rushing for 70 or more yards and a score. He did not have a turnover for just the 4th time this season and couldn't come at a better opportunity at a better time for them. On the other side, Mason Rudolph threw 2 touchdown passes with an interception in his first playoff start for the Steelers. But Pittsburgh was just too inconsistent on either side of the ball to keep up with Allen and the Bills. The Steelers lost their 5th straight playoff game. The franchise's most recent postseason victory was exactly 7 years ago. So Buffalo, that little lull of stress that they have been able to, right the ship after the firing of Ken Dorsey. And they've been on a roll. And they're going to roll right into a very good game next week. So just to give you guys the games that we have, the 7th seed Green Bay Packers will be traveling to the number 1 seed San Francisco 49ers on Saturday at 8:15. The number 4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be traveling to the number 3 Detroit Lions Sunday at 3. The number 4 Houston Texans will be traveling up to Baltimore for the against the Baltimore Ravens Sunday at 4:30. And the number 3 Kansas City Chiefs will be traveling to Buffalo to play against the Bills at 6:30. This will be Patrick Mahomes' first ever road playoff game. We know what happened the last time we saw the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs in a postseason game. I'm looking for a part 2. I'm hoping the games this weekend are a lot more closer than the games that we had this past weekend. And I expect them to be with maybe the chance of 1 or 2 of them. Not, I don't really think Tampa Bay is that good. I just think Philadelphia was just terrible. I think Detroit should be able to. And then, I really think San Francisco is going to annihilate Green Bay, but we'll see. Yeah. So we'll see what happens next week on divisional round.
Definitely looking forward to it. It means less teams. Also means more teams going home. Also means more memes, which I definitely have time for. Going from NFL playoffs to, I don't know how we want to describe this transition, but right, the Washington Wizards. And they did the thing we said they shouldn't do or couldn't do. They went above and beyond. So the floor is yours.
Of course they did. They had 2 games over the long weekend. They played Atlanta on Saturday and beat them 127-99. Then they turned around and lost the toilet bowl to the Pistons yesterday. They lost that game 129 to 117. As far as the Atlanta game, the Hawks just pulled the Wizards, shot the ball poorly and didn't defend, and the Wizards took advantage. Then yesterday, Wizards returned to form. They didn't finish and they shot the ball poorly. Gave up 129 to the Pistons, man. Alec Burks came off the bench, did whatever he wanted. 34 points, 11 for 17. Just par for the course. We bring up a lot on Outlook that it can be anybody's night against the Wizards, and it was Alec Burks' night yesterday. It just continues to be embarrassing. I don't have any more words for it. It just tells you what type of season they're having when you're out of words 40 games in. But yeah, it is what it is, man. We can only talk about what they give us to talk about. But yeah, it was just another listless showing from them. It's like they don't play with any intention. Like they just go out and kind of hope their shots are falling, and then if they are, then they'll ride that. But they don't do anything intentionally to affect the outcome of the game. We talk about it ad nauseum about their defense. It just continues to be extremely bad, and that's why they can't ever sustain anything. Even the games when things are going well, Wilson always brings up the script. They have a hot first half or first quarter, what have you, come out, score a lot of points, shoot the net off the ball, and the other team is right there at halftime. And we know what that means. The other team is going to come out in the third quarter, punch them in the mouth, and that'll be the game. Because once they face adversity, they crumble. And that's pretty much how the Pistons game went. Had a huge second quarter, 40 points, but they gave up 34. Then Pistons came back, 31-point third quarter, 35-point fourth quarter, and that's all she wrote. They gotta. I mean, we know what the mission is, but like Cardell brings up all the time, you got to be a little more discreet with the tanking. Like this is just blatant and disrespectful to fans, media, everybody involved that has to sit there and suffer through this. But hey, man, they're 7-32. We're going to see how bad this can get. The magic number is what, 9-73. That was that Philly team back in the day. We're gonna see just how far their futility extends. But yeah, man, they're in action tomorrow, I believe. Who do they have tomorrow? Give me 1 second. Thursday, I'm sorry. They travel to New York on Thursday, then are back home for a back-to-back against the Spurs on Saturday, and then Denver on Monday. And next Wednesday, they got Minnesota. Whoa, buddy. So, yeah, that's what the near future looks like for the Washington Wizards.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we get back, we're going to jump into college basketball, talk about a couple teams in the area that are doing well in terms of the A10, as Cardell has been mentioning. Big matchup. Look forward to hearing from him about that. Got a little bit of DC United news since last week. Then we'll see what pops up in rapid fire. You're watching the Focus TV. We will return shortly. Welcome back to the Focus TV. Cardell, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. The rivalry renewed. Pretty much in front of a close to sold out Smith Center. GW held serve. Thanks to a dominant first half, they defeated rival George Mason 75-62. George Washington jumped out to an 8-0 lead in the first 2:58 of the game. And thanks to a swarming defense that forced 3 turnovers as well as 0 for 5 shooting from the field from George Mason during that span. Ultimately, they took a 37-24 halftime lead. But during that span, there was a forecast of how the game would go, as the Revolutionists would not relinquish the lead at any point in the game. Whenever the Patriots made a run to close the gap, the Revolutionaries would answer with a run of their own to build their lead. GW held George Mason to 22% shooting from the field and 16% shooting from deep, and won the rebounding battle 24-16 in the first half. And they pretty much didn't look back. The Patriots did put up a tougher fight in the second half. They battled the Revolutionaries to a tie, at 38 points apiece in the second. However, it wasn't enough to overcome, the first half deficit where GW just pretty much locked them up. There's no other way of putting it. Redshirt freshman, I'm pretty sure he's in the running for an all-conference team at this point. Darren Buchanan Jr. Led all scores with 21 points and 9 rebounds. James Bishop, who's quiet as kept, creeping up the all-time scoring list for GW. That number one spot is not saved by Chris Monroe right now. He followed with 20 points and 6 rebounds. Their center, Babatunde Agabola, held down the paint on the defensive end. He posted 11 rebounds and 4 blocks, both game highs. I think he leads all of college basketball with 3.5 blocks per game coming into that contest. So he's the elite rim protector and rebounder. Keyshawn Hall led George Mason with 19 points and 9 rebounds, while forward Amari Kelly added 14 points and 5 rebounds. Also, I wanted to shout out Antoine Smith Jr. He recently just came back a few games ago. He was big in that first half surge. Came off the bench in 11 minutes of play. He scored 8 points, had 2 rebounds, and he was 3 of 3 from the field, including 2 of 2 from deep. That's how they kind of blew that game wide open. And at one point, it was up 20-8, in the first half. And that guy was just too big. The way the GW was defending, the way they was executing on offense and hitting shots, it was nothing the Patriots can really do, man. So he was huge. I definitely want to give him a shout out because it's not often, he has a game like that as a reserve, but he has some big shots to kind of not only get them out in front, but keep them out in front. GW improved to 14-3. They're 3-1 in the A10, and the next contest is against UMass this Saturday at noon.
All right. Well, shout out to GW for continuing their winning ways and handling business in this matchup. Leading up to it, you were talking about all the different implications it could hold, not only just within the conference, but within the area. So I'm glad it lived up to its billing.
Oh, yeah, it was back, man. It was a lot of area folks in there from high school, high school recruits to high school coaches, AAU coaches, or whatnot. So that's how it should be, man. We kind of need the other 2 programs to get back up to par, and then that's how it should be around here at all times. You know what I mean? And then the beautiful thing was when you look on both teams, I think it was 10 local players between both teams, and 5 coaches between both teams from this area. You know what I mean? So that just tells you, just how strong, obviously, we know this area to be, but how competitive it's going to be, man. Because you got to understand these wins and losses between these 2 teams, that matters. Because if I'm a recruit and both schools are looking at me, and one team is smacking the other team, I'm like, yeah, hey, man, I'm trying to go where the winners at. You know what I mean? They seem to be doing a better job with their players, so why am I looking at y'all? You know what I'm saying? No matter what you're trying to sell. And they could use that like coaches do. Hey, man, why are you even looking at them? We smack them every year. You know what I'm saying? You can come with us and win, or you're going to be on the losing side. It's up to you. You know what I mean? So, it could get nasty, so to speak, man. But it was good. It was intense. As soon as you walked in the building, you felt it, especially on a cold-ass day, snow coming and everything for them to sell out, damn near. That's what I remember about the Smith Center when they was rocking with it, Kevin Larson, those guys, Watanabe, all those years when they was fighting for NCAA tournament berths, man. That's how it was year in, year out. So, it's good to see it finally kind of getting back to that.
So it was a great look, and definitely seems like a great showcase for the area this past weekend at the Smith Center. And over to College Park, the Maryland women, during last week's show, shared that Maryland fell on the road to Michigan State 74-69. They would bounce back in a big way on Sunday when they played Purdue. Last Sunday, that game got postponed due to the weather, caused some building issues, what have you. Just a whole lot of rain 2 Sundays ago. It's horrible outside. Wasn't as bad as the snow, but it was still some inclement weather. Bree McDaniel scored a career high in the loss to Michigan State that she would surpass in this game, scoring 25 points in this one. She did much more than the scoring. She finished with 7 assists, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals. Jakia Brown-Turner set the tone early. She was 1 rebound shy of a double-double, finishing with 18 points and 9 rebounds. And she only missed 1 shot. She was 8 of 9 from the floor. So very efficient. And, again, one of their seniors leading the way. After going down 12-9, the Terps went on a 34-14 run to take control of the game. They closed the half strong, leading 44-31 at the break. That run included knocking down 9 consecutive shots from the floor in the second period. It would be one of Maryland's most complete, if not the most complete, game that they've played this season. To this point, Coach Freeze alluded to just that following the game. Mentioned it was her words, it was one of our most complete games, minus the 2 or 3 minutes in the third quarter. Love that we dominated in every quarter. We had 4 players in double figures. I thought we were really unselfish. We have to not turn the ball over so much as we did tonight. Need to tune in there, but overall, it was definitely one of our most complete games. As far as the turnovers go, yeah, it was definitely up there for her liking. I think they had 17 in that one, despite winning by a good margin. 17 turnovers. I don't care who the coach is. They're not a fan of that. You're going to hear it. It's going to be a talking point. Also scoring in double figures, mentioned there were 4 players. Cheyenne Sellers had 12 points and 5 assists in this one. Lavender Briggs finished with 11 points and 6 rebounds. Note on Cheyenne Sellers, she became the 38th player in program history to eclipse the 1,000-point mark in her career. She also hit the 300 assist mark early in the game. Maryland's now 11-5 on the year. They're 3-2 in conference play. Got a busy week. Up next, they'll face Ohio State on Wednesday and then Illinois on Saturday, both games being played at the Xfinity Center. With a bit of a sour note, 5-star freshman guard Riley Nelson suffered a torn ACL, and she will miss the remainder of the season. And what really stinks for her, it seemed like she was starting to find her way in the rotation, and Maryland's definitely going to miss her. Wish her a speedy recovery, a great recovery, and look forward to seeing her next year. But definitely sucks anytime a player goes down. For Maryland, busy week. You need both of these games this week. They're both conference games. We know you're going into it right now. You're 11-5 right now, 3-2 in the conference. Can't afford to go 1-2 this week, especially both games being in your building. Said I had a little bit of DC United news, so let me go ahead and get that for you all. Last time we spoke, we were talking about they were getting closer to possibly hiring a coach. Well, they did just that. Kudos DC United for the package that they had. But DC United announced that Troy Lesane will be named their new head coach. He was interim head coach of the New York Red Bulls last season, starting on May 8th. He led the Red Bulls to a 10-9-4 record, leading them to the playoffs and winning the wild card match with Charlotte FC before losing the next round. From Ali Mackay, DC United general manager and chief soccer officer, we were thoroughly impressed with Troy during the course of the interview process. Troy has an impressive pedigree in American soccer and has worked at all levels of the soccer pyramid in this country. We believe in his high-pressing tactical approach and player-first managerial style make him the best candidate to lead this club in a new and exciting direction. And we're looking forward to welcoming him to the nation's capital. He had his introductory press conference last week with the local media. One of the things I thought was interesting was Ali Mackay was saying that while he does, like, his resume shows that he has done some things, he's not super experienced in MLS in terms of head coaching experience. But he felt like he wanted to make sure that he hired someone that he could work well with every day. Because they said they're committed to trying to bring, similar to the Commanders, they want to bring their respective franchises back to those glory days, back to the heights, back to the standards that once were. During their time, DC United, all they did was win chips. It's been quite a while. They're trying to get back to it. So on the ground floor, we're going to see how this duo does. For Stephen Goff of the Washington Post, he shared this a little earlier today. Troy Lesane has hired Zach Prince who was formerly on his staff at New Mexico United and the New York Red Bulls, and Alex Martinez, a Birmingham Legion assistant. So he's trying to fill out his staff. And the tough part for DC United, you're on a time crunch, man. Like, at the end of February, regular season begins. Like, they don't waste any time. The off season is almost non-existent. You kind of deep breath back to camp. And keep in mind, they just hired their coach. Last news for DC United, they signed their third-round pick, Nathan Crockford, keeper, from this year's MLS Super Draft. It's a one-year deal with options in 25, 26, and 27. So you guys before, like with the MLS Draft, kind of similar to the WNBA Draft. Like, you get drafted, that's just the beginning. It's not like the NBA Draft, an NFL Draft in terms of the first couple rounds where, oh, I'm drafted, I got some chances to figure some things out. That is a one-year contract with options each and every subsequent year. We're going to take our second break. When we get back, we're going to see what Cardell has for us in rapid fire watching the Focus TV. Welcome back. Cardell, what you got for us this week?
Yeah, we're going to stay on the NFC East side real quick. The Commanders found a new GM. They hired Adam Peters. It was announced on Tuesday. He met with the media, obviously, earlier, and he discussed the challenge ahead for him and the new ownership group to lead the team to a tough rebuild and into what they hope can be a new era of football in the D.C. area. At the top of the list of tasks for Peters is the anticipated selection of a head coach to take the reins after last week's firing of Ron Rivera, a process which owner Josh Harris had said would kick into gear once they had their new GM. Though Peters said he had not yet started interviewing candidates, he already has ideas of what he wants to see, expressing that they would not be limiting themselves to one specific type of candidate. Quote, "We're looking for the best leader for this team," for the Washington Commanders, Peters told reporters. So we'll have set criteria that we're going to be aligned in that vision. And it's not going to be in a box. It's not going to be offense. It's not going to be defense. It's going to be the best leader for this organization. Once the head coach decision is resolved, Washington can concentrate on what needs to be changed inside the locker room to turn things around and through which avenues to address issues. Washington started at least 3 different quarterbacks each season from 2018 to 2022. And though they got some stability at the position in 2023 with second-year signal caller Sam Howell, his performance wasn't consistent enough to squash questions over whether Washington could go to the draft for another option. But while there's potential for change at the quarterback position, Peters did acknowledge that there are still solid players at other positions on the roster to build a foundation around. Quote, "I believe that there's a few cornerstone pieces on this roster. I believe we have a lot of work to do, and that's just evaluating everybody, and that's going to start with the coaches." He said once the coaches come in, we hire a head coach, and we sit down together with the personnel department, and we sit down and evaluate everything and figure out where we need to be. So that's an ongoing process. I've started a little bit, but we have a lot of work to do. Peters obviously has the experience of working through a rebuild with the team already, having spent 7 years with the 49ers as VP of player personnel and then assistant GM at San Francisco. Went from a 2-14 record the year before his hire to amassing to 3 conference championships and 1 Super Bowl during his tenure. Two-part question. One, do you believe that there are cornerstone players on the Commanders already? And who would you like to see taking the reins as head coach? I'm going to start with you, Octavia.
I honestly hope they pick the worst coach ever. I don't know. But I think cornerstone player might be a stretch. For some, like if I had to pick any of them, it would be Terry McLaurin as a cornerstone piece. And I mean, Deron Payne is already, he's already signed and everything. I mean, everybody else I feel like is replaceable. I mean, yeah, you might have some players that, do a couple of things well, but I don't think anybody is a cornerstone piece where like you got to keep them. So that already gives me pause that he feels like that. Maybe he needs some more time to like really watch. Maybe I'm sure he didn't watch many Commanders games this year outside of the time the 49ers played them, in which they annihilated them. So I give him a little bit of grace there. As far as head coach, honestly, I mean, I know it's probably not the sexy pick or anything. Like, I want to see if they ever give Bieniemy an opportunity, even though I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But I would be interested to see if they gave him a shot. We know he has the resume to be able to do it. Granted, maybe this year was a little bit shaky, but again, no cornerstone pieces outside of Terry McLaurin. I don't know exactly what miracle they wanted him to make, but I would be interested to see that. I personally don't think they have a great opportunity to get a high caliber coach that's out there, like one that has a lot of experience in head coaching, like the Jim Harbaughs and the Bill Belichick's of the rotation that's going on. I feel like it would have to be somebody that's maybe quote unquote up and coming. But I still hold out hope for Eric Bieniemy, even though, like, again, I want him to get it, but I don't, because I think that the Commanders are getting too many competent leaders, and I don't really like it. So.
Ray.
Yeah, I would have chose a different word than cornerstone. Like Octavia pointed out, Terry McLaurin, definitely a good player, but I don't think anybody on his roster is an untouchable. So there's that. As far as the head coaching selection, I kind of agree with Octavia as well, man. Like I would like to see Bieniemy in that spot, but only if the organization is going to back him 100%, because the players already complained last year about about his style. But I mean, y'all suck, so you got to go in the opposite direction. Like, but if he's in a situation where they give him full autonomy, because a player will go up the back door real quick, and try to go over your head. And what should happen is they should direct them right back to the head coach. If he has that level of support, I think he could, kind of do well in that spot. But I mean, it's not nobody is scratching and clawing to get this job. Like Octavia said, like the big names, the big sexy names, this is not even on their list. So I know people will always throw those guys out there, but forget about it. It's not happening. If it does, then somebody got a real big suitcase delivered to their house, but yeah, I think Bieniemy would be the logical choice. He's there, the players are already familiar with him, and he's good at what he does, which is the main thing. I think he's the best available option of what they have to choose from. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him get elevated.
I jumped in. I think I got one guy who I think is kind of an obvious name. Go with Raheem Morris. I think it's about that time for him to get a second chance. The other reason I have have him in the ring is he's somebody that's familiar with that Shanahan McVay. He's connected within that tree. That was the guy when everyone was going crazy about Brandon Staley and the Chargers made the mistake they made. Sean McVay didn't. There was no spilled milk over losing Brandon Staley. They just hired Raheem Morris, asked Raheem Morris to run Brandon Staley's defense, and won a Super Bowl. And he was running someone else's defense, so he didn't have his own pieces, and he executed. And I think one of the things I think he got to see being where he was, he's been in several really good places along the way. I think one of the great things was being in San Fran with John and Kyle, starting at 2 and whatever. The cupboard was bare for the most part. Another name, if this goes on for a while, Steve Wilkes. The Panthers skipped over him, and look at what they went through. And what we saw at the end, 2 years ago at the end of that season, the Panthers players were almost in a mutiny about losing Steve Wilkes at the end of that season when, they were supposed to be looking for a coach. And like you said, if it's about a leader, man, my 2 picks are Raheem Morris and Steve Wilkes. I know people love doing the young, the young name coordinator thing or whatever, but you're kind of starting over. Go get somebody with some stability, like this that has some experience. I think sometimes, like, we can look at the Kyle and McVay or something like that, but those dudes grew up in the NFL. Every young coordinator didn't. So I'm interested to see what they end up doing, though.
Yeah, I like what all y'all had to say, but I agree with Raymond. It doesn't mean anything if the organization don't back whoever the new coach is. If they're going to nitpick and try to direct everything he does. One thing that's always funny to me in pro sports is when the ownership tries to, or GM or whatnot, tries to pick the staff for the coaches, and it's just like, man, let that coach do what he does. Man. Let him coach, let him pick his staff, and let him actually build the team, and let him guide the team, let him coach the team, develop players, let him do his job. If you're going to nitpick and do the job, you might as well just coach. You know what I mean? Because the players, they would never respect him like they should, because they already know, is he basically on the leash, you know what I'm saying, so to speak, man. So some of them may be even bold to go above him when stuff go bad and situations, little issues, and that's how you get little leaks and stuff coming out through the media and random stuff popping out. And that's how you lose control of the locker room real quick, especially when you're holding players accountable, which is, to be honest, these days, most players are allergic to. So, hopefully this new GM, he understands that and let these coaches rock, whoever he chooses to run the team. We're going to get on the NBA side of things, a story that kind of caught my attention because I was just shaking my head at the stats regarding the load management. A new rule, is changing the NBA's award race. It also could cost players millions. The league's rule put in place in early October as part of the push to curb load management states players will be all but certain to be ineligible for major individual awards, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, all NBA honors among them, if they fail to play in at least 65 games. Last week, as part of a league commission report that argues load management does not reduce the long-term risk of injuries to players, the NBA laid out the increase in missed games among star players over the last 40 years. In the 1980s, star players defined in the report as players who were all-star or all NBA selections in their current season or the prior to missed an average of 10.4 games per season. In the 1990s, that number was 10.6 games. It has steadily increased since. 13.9 games in the 2000s, 17.5 games in the 2010s, 23.9 games missed per season this decade. Quote, of course, there's significant business impact there and fan impact, as well as the competitive integrity piece of missed games. Evan Walsh, the NBA's executive vice president of basketball strategy and analytics, told ESPN. So we talked about how we could potentially reverse that trend. Of the players selected to the 3 All-NBA teams last season, 5 of them, Milwaukee Bucks for Giannis Antetokounmpo, played 63 games. Golden State Warriors guard Steph Curry, played 56. Miami forward Jimmy Butler, 64. Los Angeles Lakers for LeBron James, 55. And then Portland Trailblazers guard Damian Lillard, 58, would not have been eligible for honors under the new rule. The rule, therefore, would have also impacted the financial futures of several elite players. For example, Toronto Raptors forward Patrick Siakam, for example, finished 9th in All-NBA voting among forwards, behind a list that included Antetokounmpo, Butler, and James. If the 65-game rule weren't in place last season, Siakam would have been one of the 6 forwards to qualify. With it would have come eligibility for a Supermax contract extension this past summer. Siakam went ahead into the offseason without a new deal, and his name has surfaced in trade reports ahead of the February 8th deadline. Ray, we're going to start with you. First of all, what are your thoughts on hearing the number of games that has been missed steadily rising since the 80s to now, when we have these bigger, stronger, more athletic guys playing today? And also, do you like the rule even more, the load management rule even more, because players are fully aware that it will cost them millions if they don't show up and do their job?
Yeah, man, I think, you often point out that bigger, stronger, faster thing is bull. And every so often, God will just place some examples in our lap like this one right here. If you're bigger, faster, and stronger, and you should be able to play more and withstand more punishment. These guys don't even practice. So why are you missing 23 games? Why are you missing 23 games? Like, on average for star players. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm glad the NBA addressed it, and it looks like it's working because many of the notorious load management guys have barely missed games. So people claiming that they were legitimately missing games because of injury or whatever, it's obviously nonsense because they didn't magically become not injury prone this season. They were clearly sitting games on purpose, whether it be on behalf of the player or behalf of the organization or what have you. It should be no healthy scratches, especially with the type of money they're making these days. So get your ass out there and play. You know, it used to be playing 82 games was the standard, you know, and of course things gonna happen. Guys get little injuries or whatever that sideline them for a game, but you know, they getting right back to it as soon as possible. Now dudes missing 10 games for a tweaked ankle. Like, that's BS, man. Like, if unless your shit severely sprained, take a game, you know, get yourself together, then get back out there. You know, like, and these guys talking, you know, always want to compare themselves and place themselves above players from previous generations. Those guys were committed and they were playing through, you know, these nagging injuries that have dudes sitting on the bench in street clothes. But then when a teammate catch a oop or make a step back three or something, they jumping up and down and cheering. Like, you hurt or you just chilling? Or guys go through full warm up with no restrictions, but you sit out the game. Like, that's foolishness, man. Like, I'm glad the NBA did that. And as far as I'm concerned, they was being nice because giving them 17 games is too much. If it was up to me, I'd have bumped it up to like 75. Because I mean, that give you 7 games. You can miss a game a month. Pick one. Like, especially when you talking about guys being up for all NBA and things like that, that's supposed to be the cream of the crop. Those people supposed to be the guys setting an example and setting the standard for what the rest of the league is supposed to follow. But you got dudes on that list playing 55 games and 60 games in the season. That's bullshit. You should not be eligible for that award, and it should impact you financially. So deal with it. Like, rise up to the occasion or not. It's up to them.
Shout out to Joe Dumas for making this happen. Love you even more, man. Wilson, it's on you.
Hey, man, the bill came due. It came due. Y'all been messing around. You found out. Them old dudes at the office finally had enough. The money keep going up. Like, we've been saying this quietly for a couple of years. As the money keeps going up, the expectations going to change. The money keeps going up. And now all of a sudden, we can play back-to-backs now. We can get through 70 games now. Oh, it's a miracle. My back with this new technology, I visited Wakanda. I am healthy. Like, y'all are sick, bro. Y'all are very sick. And Ray, like you mentioned the no practices thing, Octavia, you were talking about not specifically just the team that you root for, but like NFL's going through that to a degree. You keep taking out main ingredients of the sport and wonder why like the product suffers. Practice is good for you. Practice helps build calluses. Like what you took was the calluses away. So yeah, you took all the little things in between resting and playing professional sports at a high level. You took all those little things in between away, and you wonder why people's bodies dead. You can't do that. You just can't. And then people are playing around with something they shouldn't be playing around with. Like it's not a game. It's high impact. It is your body. And then you play around long enough, then your body don't bounce back. And then we're talking different. But again, it's so interesting. The incentive, it's always, we saw folks competing like it was an NBA championship for that $500,000 in the playing thing, which threw me all the way left and proved that we don't need to compare the eras because them people were playing 80-something games, 70 games for a fraction of what some of you guys are getting. A fraction. I'm talking about lower fraction, too, of what you guys are getting. And y'all out here acting like this. And then if I'm Pascal Siakam, I'm not going to lie. I'm looking at some of the people ahead of him. Y'all cost me bread. Just because I showed up for work. Like, I lost the Supermax because I came to work regardless of my front office situation. I'm punished.
300 M's.
Because I came to work. Nah, yeah. Hey, look, if I was Pascal, I would have been one on the phone with Joe. Hey, Uncle Joe, hit the button. I've had enough. Like, I might lose this contract, but the next one I'm getting. Because it doesn't make any sense. And then the worst part is, these are your upper echelon players. It's disgusting. It's honestly disgusting. And shout out to Joe Dumars and company, but it's like anything else. You give people enough rope, at some point there's gonna be bounce back. And we've been saying there was gonna be bounce back. We've repeatedly said this on this show over the past few years. They're gonna hit you back. We didn't say how, we just knew it was gonna be met. And here we are. Yeah, we'll still pay you. However, there's now 17,000 addendums in there, aka come to work and play. And I can't, I'm with the league. 300 M's? You ain't trying to come to work? It's crazy. And you took my money, and I came to work.
On you, Octavia. I mean, I think you guys pretty much covered it all, because I'm just like, either you want to be a pro or you don't. Like, either you want to be a pro and you play like the pros play, or you want to go run at the YMCA and play like, once every other Saturday, get a little get a little bit of cardio in and then go home. I love the rule because it's ridiculous. And then again, as I think some of the players do know, but then I think some of them don't care that much about, is that granted you're playing a game that you love, it's also a product for people to watch. I get annoyed when it's a big game that's coming on and I'm like, God dang, this not even playing. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, nobody wants to see that. Can you imagine if one of the better games I watched recently, surprisingly, was the Spurs versus the Bucks, because Victor Wembanyama played against Giannis Antetokounmpo. Could you imagine if one of them did not play in that game, on a nationally televised game? Who would have sat through that and watched the rest of the Spurs play against the Bucks? But that was one of the better games this year because the stars were available and they played like they were supposed to play. They put the product out there that Adam Silver and the NBA wants to be put out there. So I love it. It will definitely weed out those old, I just don't feel like playing today, or even, the quote unquote, the franchise front office told me not to play, or the doctor said I can't play. They ain't gonna be saying that. You can't be using that as an excuse no more neither. So they would like, get your ass out there at this point. I drag you out there myself. So I'm here for it. I love it. Especially tying it to incentives and money, because that's what's gonna make them get up and go. Like you said, to miss out on a Supermax because I only played in 60 games instead of 65. Oh, you're gonna be hot. So I love it. I hope they continue it. And I hope it gets to the point where we can, like Ray said, bump it up to 75. You should be able to picking one game a month not to play. That was pretty genius. So like I'm definitely on board with that as well. So hopefully they'll be able to, pick it up, because like you said, like, we are way more advanced than we were in the 90s. How in the 90s they were only missing on average 10 games and y'all are average at 23.9, 24 with all of the new technology and all of the billions of dollars you guys put into your body. Something, the math is the mathing. So I love the rule and I hope it continues.
I mean, we all know the stars of the league. With no stars, there's no league, there's no investment. Media don't put in all this money. And once I saw Jaylen Brown sign for that 300, I knew it got real now. Like, oh, y'all playing. Because you got and look at what Victor's going to demand. Like, people think I'm playing. He's going to challenge like half a bill. And he's that damn good with him. You seeing it now. Like, think about it. 3 or 4 years from now, you be like, yeah, he kind of deserves it. That's a bad mouth, you know what I'm saying? So, but Victor, we need you for all 82, bro. We ain't even, unless you legitimately hurt, we not doing this, man. We just not. It's ridiculous, man. And you see the fans, like, we're in the building, so we know what the fans are saying. We know how we feel. We come to the game. Like I told Ray, I think at the game, I haven't seen Zion play in his whole career because he's always hurt or sitting out. He has not played in DC since he's been drafted. Not once. So if you ain't catch him in college, if you from this area, you ain't seen him, you can't see him live. That's ridiculous. And he only comes to the East Coast one time a year. That's what makes it bad. You understand what I'm saying? And also to figure out what Octavia said about the technology, is it really that much better? I mean, the air fryer makes it more convenient, but it don't cook better than the oven and the stove, dog. I'm just saying. It just don't. So a lot of the little techniques and stuff that they're using clearly ain't helping. The advancement in shoes and stuff, it's a lot of little steps being skipped when it comes to preparing your body, preparing your game to handle the workload of an NBA season. And as you see it, and I had to look it up. The main guy in this area, LeBron James. I was like, well, how many times has he played 82 games? I looked it up in his career. He's only played 82 games once in his entire career.
I was going to say probably not ever.
Once in his entire career. One time. He's only played, after that, he's only played 80 games. 1, 2, in his entire career, twice. So he's only played 80 or above 3 times. But when we grew up, the Magic, the Birds, the Jordans, all those guys, they was playing all 82. No question. So if he's doing that, everything follows what he's doing because he's the top guy. Now everybody else gonna start doing that. And then when everybody else, and then other stars, because obviously the rotation guys, the fringe guys, and two-way guys, they can't afford not to play. They be out the league. They get them up out of this. So you demand they play. But the guys that you're building the team around, hey man, you can take a day off, and then wonder why you're not having success. It just doesn't add up. It hurts the game. It has been hurting the game, and you see why. I've been screaming for a while. It's bull. It's just bull. Because if we could see previous eras endure more, and these guys are always ready to play, why can't we do that with these guys now? What has changed? Y'all spread the season out. Y'all don't practice. You barely have shoot around. For goodness sake, All-Star break, you getting like a half off. Even during playoffs, y'all spreading the damn playoffs all the way out and stuff like that. It's like you start the season earlier. You start the damn season damn near mid-October now. It used to be early November. So all these conveniences and stuff, and if guys were still taking low man, dog, a quarter of the season, 23 games. That's for the star players. That's ridiculous. That's really just saying fuck you to the fans. Let's call it what it is. Fuck y'all. Y'all look, I come in here when I feel like it, y'all on my time. And that's how a lot of dudes carried it. So Joe Dumars like, all right, we're gonna reel this back in real quick. And I think he probably wanted more, but the NBPA wouldn't allow that. You know what I'm saying? So they were gonna fight back. All right, we're gonna do the 65. Or y'all gonna be some broke mouth. Y'all gonna be playing or something. How y'all want it? Now all of a sudden, yeah, I'm good to go and all that. Oh yeah, and I bet you are. Listening to these soccer dudes tell y'all it's okay. That's the other thing that's messed it up. That's the other thing. You see what I'm saying? They directing basketball players and stuff like that. It's just a whole lot of mess going on behind the scenes, man. And once I read that stat, when I read that All-Star stat, I was like, hold up, what? 23 games on average for the All-Stars and all NBA guys? Come on, it's a slap in the face of the fans, man. And the thing is, fine. If the players ain't gonna play tonight, let us know so I can get my refund. I ain't gotta waste time. All the money I stacked up to go get this high-ass tickets to get my son here because he want to see Zion Williamson. We can't make it because now I'm mad we sitting here and no disrespect, we watching Steven Adams in the post. No disrespect. we ain't pay all that money to see him. We wanted to see Zion fly through here and dunk. So then let me get my refund. We keep it moving. But the NBA don't want that to happen. So, I'm glad this change has been made. Like Ray said, I hope we get even higher. We get up in the 70s somewhere. And I'm good with it. Because it'll force guys to manage their bodies, take care of themselves. Hey, I ain't going out tonight. My knee hurt. Let me go ice my knee so I can play tomorrow. Take this game more serious. My ankle sprained, man. Let me hot and cold therapy. Let me make sure I'm ready to go. How about in the off season? I actually train instead of doing bullshit drills all the damn time. I'm in the weight room, making sure my body's strong, doing all that, so I can be on the court. You see what I'm saying? You don't get this problem, and then even Giannis, he just following the lead of what the other guys do, which I'm disappointed in him, man. But for the most part, he's always doing it. He always plays. See what I'm saying? So, I love seeing it. And hopefully it continues. And hopefully the new generation coming in, Victor seemed to have his head on straight. Hopefully he's not, caught up in the BS of this era that's about to leave. Where they get back to the standard, man, playing every game and giving the fans a good show and trying to win ball games and being the best we can be. Hopefully we can get back there.
And hopefully it's a great way to close the show. And also it's sad that they had to fight to get them to do this, which is, again, just like we're on Wizards Outlook all the time. We just talk about, like, we asking for what was.
They often cry about and whine to the fans like, y'all don't know what we go through, man. It's tough. Ain't no grown man or woman working a double shift trying to hit it. Like, what are you talking about, man? Y'all making millions. I'm barely making $30,000 a year, and I'm working double shift, and I got 2 or 3 kids. I ain't trying to hit none of that, man. And I scraped together some money to come see y'all. Telling my knee hurt, nigga, my whole body hurt. So that shows you how out of touch a lot of these youngers are. Because honestly, let's be for real, a lot of these youngers in the league now probably never even had a job, so they don't understand how the other side is. So they don't have the appreciation for, like, the old school guys like Jordans and all them. Man, I'm playing because it might be a kid up in the stands that never seen me play before. I'm gonna give him the Michael Jordan experience. So that's my motivation for going out to play in game 51 of the season against the LA Clippers. They trash, but I'm still gonna get these boys fit and stay motivated and do what I gotta do. You see what I'm saying? And that's the standard that if you're a pro athlete, you need to carry. The older athletes in NFL side too, they consider it a privilege that people are paying money to come see them play. Nowadays, it's like Dragonfly Jones. It's an honor for you to see me play. It's an honor for you to meet me, man. Like, it's that type of attitude, and it's just disrespectful. You see what I'm saying? So the NBA felt it. They felt the fans. They could put up all them BS stats about, hey, this is the most highest viewed, most well-viewed game on social media. Nah, bro. Y'all know them TV, the streaming services. That's where the money is. And ain't nobody watching. Ain't anybody at the games. You see what I'm saying? So when you selling Wizards games, when you selling tickets and it's $50 in the 100 section of Wizards games, it's bad. It's bad. That tells you all you need to know. We're gonna leave it on that, Wilson.
No problem. Like, we appreciate y'all tuning in this week. Looking forward to speaking with y'all again next week. Can't wait to see what happens between now and then in our respective segments, and obviously just in the world of sports as a whole. For Wizards fans, we'll see y'all a couple more times this week, obviously. Enjoy the rest of your sports week. It's been a Focus TV. We'll see you guys soon.